Rob Brown here on this gorgeous fall day here in Memphis. It's going to be about 86 today. The fall weather, you got to love it. But soon, eventually the leaves will change. And Matt Dean is with us, the coach over in Memphis, across from the Memphis Zoo, ranked number 2 in the nation. I'm going again Friday to Zoo Boo, third time in 3 weeks with my grandson. It's going to be a lot of fun. Look, Coach Matt Dean, John Hartwell, AD at ULM, will join us about 20 after. He's got an engagement he's got to take care of right now. At half past the hour, Gary Harris, Tuscaloosa, WVUA TV Channel 23 and Tide 100.9, Tider Insider TV. 8:50, Jacques Doucet, WAFB Channel 9, Louisiana Sportscaster of the Year, weighs in. What's going on down in Red Stick, Baton Rouge, LSU this weekend at Texas A&M. Hey, smash that subscribe button at the bottom right-hand corner. Allow notifications on your Android or iPhone. And if you need a new car, truck, or SUV, think LandersFordMemphis.com. We'll talk about them during the show. Here we go. Get pen and paper handy. All right. Let's say this. Matt, where do you start with the weekend, all the games? They're so good. There's so many storylines. This, again, I mean, it's like going to those all-you-can-eat buffets. Where do you start, where they've got the benches because people are too big to sit in chairs. So they got benches out there. This weekend, let's just run down the list. Alabama hosts Missouri. Arkansas is at Mississippi State. Auburn at Kentucky. LSU at Texas A&M. Ole Miss hosts Oklahoma. Vanderbilt hosts Texas. All right. Yancey Porter said on the show Tuesday, in Oxford, Mississippi, for this weekend, some people are getting up to $30,000 to rent their house out for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights for an Oklahoma team that's coming in with about a 16th of a tank of gas and the car is buckling. Let's get started, Matt. Make some sense out of all this.
Hey, it's good to be back on with you, Rob. I was able to listen. I think you had Chris Plank on either yesterday or the day before.
Tuesday, yes.
And I thought it was really intriguing because I had not heard, even though I know a little bit about Oregon football because my son works there, but the Dylan Gabriel story about wanting to get closer to home. And I'm sure that's 100% accurate. The thing that's interesting is I honestly thought that Oklahoma would be better. And you guys talked about the line of scrimmage. The defense is still very talented, very well coached. And quite frankly, it was the defense that beat you guys, Rob, down in Auburn because that was a game that was stolen from you in the fourth quarter. But this weekend, I don't see Oklahoma Ole Miss a contest. I don't know if you feel the same way. I think Ole Miss is 2 to 3 scores better just because offensively the Sooners. If you looked at last week against South Carolina, they didn't do much. And I know South Carolina, and kudos to Coach Beamer and his staff. They've really won some big games so far and had LSU on the ropes, right? Yep. But the game of the week is got to be down in College Station. Except for Notre Dame, this is probably the biggest test the Aggies have had. I think LSU coming in there I know they had an early loss to LSU where the defense maybe gave up some points they didn't expect, but I think that's a really interesting game. I've been to several LSU A&M games. That's a big rival, though it's not maybe the traditional rival that LSU has with other people in the SEC.
But it's for recruiting. It's a huge rivalry.
You look at all those things you factor in with recruiting, and quite frankly, I can remember being at the 7 overtime game, 74-72. That was the year before. LSU won the national championship, and
correct.
And Coach Orgeron was obviously very upset about that game. And there's a couple calls that went the Aggies' way, but I still think A&M. Kudos to Coach Elko and his staff. They're playing really good football. But even like last week, I had a chance to watch a little bit of A&M and Mississippi State. Mississippi State, is getting better. I'm basically at a point right now that I think LSU A&M is going to have a big factor on the second spot in the playoffs. That's kind of the way I feel because A&M's got such a favorable schedule, Rob. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, they do. And I want to shed some light on this. I love this guy, George. I don't know him, but he watches the show. He's in Portland. Okay. So
Yeah,
he's what, 45 minutes to an hour from Eugene. But
yeah,
I want to delve into Florida. They've got him a quarterback.
they
And
do.
right
By
now,
the way,
they're
Rob, I
recruiting.
predicted they would win last week. I was the only one on the panel that had them beating Kentucky. I want you to know that.
Oh, I had them to beat Kentucky 22-16.
I'm talking about the other guest experts you had on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Fellow experts, esteemed colleagues. Yes, you're right.
Esteemed
No,
colleagues.
you're right. But DJ Lagway, if I'm a Florida fan, I am going, holy shnikes.
Yeah.
This guy is fast. He can stand in the pocket, but he can throw darts. On a rope, 50 and 60 yards. The future of Florida football is DJ Lagway and the people that he will attract in recruiting, because it's going to be fun to watch this. We are. It's really in Florida's close to have been on a 4-game winning streak. They did everything but beat Tennessee. So that's how tough the SEC is.
Yes.
Top to bottom. I cannot remember a year top to bottom. Anybody, we've heard it before, but anybody can beat you now.
I'll tell you this much. When you play someone is really important too. I feel like in a league like the SEC, people accumulate injuries in college football. Teams do weekly, right? So I look back when A&M traveled to Florida. Florida is not the same team that they are now. Would you agree with that statement? I mean, they were still kind of figuring things out.
Yeah.
DJ had not really been in the starting lineup yet, I don't believe. I think, and not that, first of all, I have a lot of respect for Graham Mertz. I think he's a quality quarterback.
Yeah.
It's obvious, though, now after the Tennessee game and what they've done since then, I believe they're 4-3.
Yes.
Clearly, they're going to beat Florida State later in the season, in my opinion. But the question is, can Billy get them bowl eligible with a tough schedule ahead? And because how good his quarterback is, I think that may save his job. I could be completely wrong. I mean, I think you got to look into that factor. I think you're seeing a team getting better. In the coaching world, that's what we talk about all the time, is can you get better week to week? Whereas I would argue that Missouri is not the same team we thought they would be week 1, 2, or 3 now. So I mean, you look at some of those differences. I mean, it's clear. Great example is Charlie Lee, what he's done at Vanderbilt.
Clark Lee, yeah.
Yeah, right? So
Yeah.
I think in the real intriguing game, Texas is going to win the game, probably. But how they respond, because you saw how Kirby Smart's team responded after being down 28-0 to Alabama on the road in a really tough environment. They damn near won the football game in the second half. And then since then, they have been the Fighting Bulldogs, as we know them.
Yeah.
What will happen this week? Will Ewers get back on track? Because Vanderbilt has a really good team. I mean, they are. I was kind of disappointed that game day didn't go there, but I get it. The whole Indiana situation, going to Bloomington. They're 7-0, and Corso used to coach there. It's kind of like a reunion. I get that, but I think Texas better be ready, because this has kind of been Vandy's mantra this year. They're going to play hard against anyone for 60 minutes.
And their offense is hard to figure out with Diego Pavia. I mean, his stats are not off the charts. I think he has 11 or 12 touchdown passes. But it's what he does to make everybody around him play better.
They move the chains.
Yeah, they're look, they're 5-2. Vanderbilt, 5-2. And now I made a prediction Tuesday night that Florida wins 2 of these last 5 games.
I believe that. I'm with you.
I bet a sack full of crystals with Lauren Meadows and David Whitley on the Buddy Martin show Tuesday night. Matt, let's look at a couple of things here. Missouri, we're going to talk with Gary Harris shortly, so I'll leave that one alone. But Arkansas and Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Jeff Lebby is a hell of an offensive mind. and Oklahoma misses him. They fired their offensive coordinator Monday. Arkansas has to go on the road and get that win. But I think this is going to be a nail biter because Mississippi State has been trending upward with their offense. And if they have a good enough defense, I think they get the win. It's going to be Arkansas right now. I've got them losing this game, and I'll put my final picks out tomorrow. But Mississippi State, remember, not one starter that was on the field when the Egg Bowl ended Thanksgiving night was on the Mississippi State roster on game 1 of this year.
That's a remarkable stat, Rob. I didn't realize that. And let's look back 2 weeks ago. They played at Georgia 41-31. Very competitive game.
Yes.
Okay? Last week, I believe it was a touchdown game. They had a couple of turnovers, I believe, that kind of hindered their ability to beat A&M. I would agree with you. I think, and especially with the way Arkansas has the tendency to turn the ball over at times, they're going to have to play mistake-free football. I'm assuming the game's in Starkville, Rob.
It's in Starkville, yeah.
It would not shock me a bit if Mississippi State gets a win this weekend because they are trending upward. And I think they know now that it's all about improvement leading into next season, leading into finalizing a recruiting class, believing in a system. And you got to admit that program's been through a lot since we lost Coach Leach, and they lost Coach Leach. So offensively, one of the great minds in college football, and you can also tell it by, you mentioned it, Rob, how poor offensively Oklahoma's been this year, how different they've been. I mean, it's easy. This is where I disagree with folks. It's easy to point just at losing your quarterback. Well, we see cases on cases. Vanderbilt found a quarterback, right? I mean, and you would have said before the season, there's no way you'd have taken Vanderbilt's personnel over Oklahoma's personnel.
Yeah.
But what's one of the biggest differences at the quarterback spot?
Yeah.
It is.
It is.
And I think I heard you say this on Tuesday. I think Chris Plank did. Evaluations. It's not just the head coach that makes those evaluations. It's both sides of the ball staff-wise. And right now, Vanderbilt, like I even texted my son last night, one of the highest graded tight ends in America is Eli Stowers at Vanderbilt. Do you know he was recruited to play quarterback at Texas A&M? My son told me about it last night, and I was like, that's an amazing story. So that young man is now playing at tight end, part of a Vanderbilt team that's 5-2 in the SEC, with the biggest upset in 40 years for their program. So development of players and evaluation of players. We don't talk about those two words a lot, but they are crucial. They are crucial. And quite frankly, Venables better figure out a way to get his offense to score points because I know they love him. I know there's history. But at the end of the day, they're not very competitive right now, Rob.
Well, if you look at Jackson Arnold, highest rated offensive recruit in Oklahoma history, 5-star and change. They sack him in the second quarter of the Tennessee game, their first ever SEC game. That was a powerful statement. They put in Hawkins, the freshman whose dad played for Bob Stoops at Oklahoma. He ain't getting it done. They tried to put Arnold in. They did the other day. It doesn't matter. Their offense, and Chris Plank, who's the sideline reporter on the Boomer Sooner Football Network, knows that program well. Yeah. And the Dylan Gabriel story to Oregon, I'm sure Tyler, your son, talks to him. I'm sure he got some NIL money to go. So he wanted to be closer to home. He went to St. Louis Catholic School, I think, in Honolulu, Hawaii, as Coach Reed used to say. But I look at the defense is really good, but you still have to have offense. And their offense at Oklahoma, we talked about this. Yancey said it from Rebel Yell Hotline Tuesday. Ole Miss, it looks like their first 16 plays every week are scripted. So they'll probably score on the first possession. Yeah. But if Oklahoma can keep it close going into the fourth quarter, that's how they can win a game. What was the theme with Ole Miss football going into this season? Playoff or bust, okay? They better not lose because they're going to find out what bust looks like. Did you know in January, 41 players will be leaving Ole Miss? Guys, if we've seen this story before,
Yeah.
flush out your headgear, get your heads out of the sand. This is junior college all over again. You stack them up in the portal. You stacked them up in junior college. Why were those kids in junior college? They got problems, academic, behavioral, all of the above, typically. Okay? Some of them were scrawny and they needed to be developed and put some weight on. Same thing in the portal. About 50% of these kids that go into the portal are orphaned. They're never picked up. It's the same thing happening. It just looks different. But you've got to build your program long term with high school recruiting, Matt. You cannot grab offensive linemen, I'm talking game-changing types, out of the portal. Rarely. You might be able to do it on a few occasions, but you got to develop them, and your offensive line coach better be tough. You better get the right kids in there because the portal is JUCO of this millennium. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I think it goes back a little bit to evaluation and coaching. So I'll give you a great example. Let's say you and I are on the same staff and we want to get a lineman in the portal. Okay. One of the things it's easy to do is go to the most elite programs and let's say we got some money to spend, let's say, and we know we can get someone on someone's line. We look at how many starts they've had in a 2 or 3 year period. Their representation contacts our representation. We make it work. But to me, one of the things that's really intriguing is if you dig deeper, sometimes you're better off looking at, okay, I have someone I trust in the coaching profession that let's say is a great offensive line coach at a MAC school. Let's just say that, okay? And I know there's a first team all conference player that's got some NFL draft grades on the board that would probably like to get an upgrade in money. And because there's a relationship with the coach, it may be painful if we take one of our good friends' players away from him, but it's financially advantageous for the kid. It's just like free agency. But hear me out here. And sometimes how you work the portal, Rob, and how you evaluate the portal is very, very important. And I'm not, and I think if you look at Dan Lanning's model, let's just look at versus Kirby, someone he worked for. Kirby, year after year after year, top 3, top 4 high school class, right? Wins a couple national championships. It's real easy to say that I don't need to go in the portal because I've built this wealth of prospects that I'm a great developer. I'm a great evaluator. If I need a piece here or there, I'll get it. But I am who I am. But when you take over a new program and you have to restock the cabinet, I think you have to do a combination of both. And I think that's what Dan Lanning has done at Oregon. I know it's only week 8, but they're the number 1 team in the country. And he's 29-5 in his first 34 games as head coach at Oregon. He's had 1 blowout loss to his mentor. The other 4 games were like 4 points or less. Could have went their way at any play. And you lose Bo Nix, who's now starting for the Denver Broncos, 4-3 as a rookie. And yeah, you can say you get Dylan Gabriel, but look how much grief they got the first 2 weeks when everyone's saying Oregon doesn't look very good. Well, no crap. They're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Better every week. And now, you know what, Rob? They look pretty good.
Yeah.
Ohio State. I was at the Purdue game last week in West Lafayette. First 3 drives, 21-0. We punched them out. Game over.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everyone's saying, oh, this is a trap game. This is your Vandy game. Okay. Those guys all week, when they got done with Ohio State, it was over. It was flushed. It was on to Purdue. And all I'm telling you is this. I watched the Georgia-Texas game, and Kirby's guys were flying around. I mean, I think Texas had 3 turnovers, if I'm not mistaken. Now, here's what's crazy. Beck threw 3 interceptions. You can say if Beck would have played a better football game, Georgia may have blown him out of the water completely. They still won convincingly. I guess my whole point is, Rob, we mentioned the portal, but there's ways of handling the portal that are different philosophically. You look at Dabo. He doesn't really touch the portal, but now Clemson's in position with our new system. If they win the ACC, they're in. They may even get in as the second team from the ACC because Miami's that good, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, Yeah, I get it why Dabo and Kirby are doing it because they got a couple national championships apiece, whatever. But if you're starting a new program, listen, it's common knowledge. Oklahoma chose Venables over Dan Lanning. That's all I want to say.
Well, Dan Lanning's from Olathe, Kansas, and I know he's good friends with Ryan Silverfield, Memphis's football coach, because Ryan was at the Touchdown Club of Memphis a few weeks ago, and Memphis has got a good one. Ryan Silverfield. I look. He's a Jacksonville kid. Went to the Bowles School down in Jacksonville. I think he's been coaching since he was 21. Here's a guy who first dunked in sixth grade in middle school. Stufferino, as Joe Dean used to say on the SEC basketball. A little Stufferino from downtown Lexington, KY. A little string music, Nashville, Tennessee. Barry Goheen. Remember that guy, Barry Goheen, at guard for Vanderbilt back in the 80s? He used to give me nightmares, man. John Hartwell, athletic director, ULM, does not eat seafood that's ever been frozen, only on pellet ice. It must be fresh. You are orchestrating one of my favorite and one of the best stories in college football. You brought in Bryant Vincent, a new coach who was interim at UAB. He's coached at Spanish Fort. He's from Glasgow, Kentucky. You're 5-1. You had the day off. Now you're going down this weekend. You're going home. It's your homecoming to play the South Alabama Jaguars. 73 new players on your roster. I'm just going to go along with what Matt just said about evaluation and development in the portal. And knowing you as I do and have gotten to know you, I'm sure you watched that process play out. Kind of tell us how the sausage was made, Mark Twain.
Yeah, the fine print you didn't read about dunking in the sixth grade. It was an 8-foot goal, but you can leave the details out. So,
okay.
Good to see you guys this morning, Matt. Hope you're doing well.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, we're excited about going to South Alabama. It's homecoming for them, and in a way, a homecoming for not only for me but for Bryant Vincent too. And a lot of his early success, taking over a Spanish Fort high school team that had lost 17 games in a row, and in a 4-year period, winning a state championship. And then he was on Joey Jones' staff at South Alabama, from being wide receivers coach to quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator. So we're excited about going down there, and you just take one day at a time, and South will be ready to play. They ran Appalachian State out of their own stadium in Boone several weeks ago, so they're really talented, and and I applaud Coach Vincent and what he's doing, as he says and reminds our team every day. Hey, we're keeping the 134 mentality. We're keeping the mentality that people think we're the worst team in college football.
Yeah.
Let's go out there and prove them wrong. So,
well, PTW LFG, that's a great motto. I tell you what's going on. These Tuesday and Wednesday night and Thursday night games that a lot of the MAC and the Sun Belt play, it reminds me a lot of how Turner Broadcasting built the fan base around America for the Atlanta Braves. And about 3 years ago, when the Braves were out in Houston wrapping up the World Series championship, they called them the TBS kids. All these fans that have grown up all over the country because of the Superstation. Hell, I remember coming home before practice in the afternoon in high school, turning on WGN in Chicago with Harry Carey and Steve Stone and Andre Hawkins, the Hawk. But they would always, you watched those games and it built a following. I mean, I just think it's a great story. While I'm at it, let me say something. Here's the new book, folks, Unrivaled, $18.99, about Sewannee's team, won 5 games in 6 days. My friend Norman Jetmanson and David Cruz worked on this project. The documentary, Sewanee on 1899unrivaled.org. Go to the website. You can buy it. It's a great, great documentary on DVD. And this book now is a coffee table book. It's a great story. I would recommend every college football coach in America show that to his team to remind them of why this game is so special. Absolutely love the story. John, before I go back to Matt, I want to ask you this college football season, looking here in the SEC, top to bottom, you look at the Sun Belt, you look at the Big Ten, the ACC, everybody wants to beat on the ACC. They might have two teams, Miami and Clemson, make the playoff. I think a lot of people in the SEC were thinking we might have 4 or 5 from this league. It's playing out differently than most people thought. Would you agree, John?
Yeah, it is. And the beauty of it is there's still parity in college football. I mean, there are a lot of talented players out there, a lot of really good coaches. The most talented team does not always win. The most talented team, if you don't have chemistry, and you go against a team that maybe not quite as talented, but is all pulling on the same end of the rope. You see it in football, you see it in sports, you see it in corporate America every day. But I think that's something that's really exciting. I'll give you guys something else to chew on here, and this is going to be amazing. That a part of the House settlement that really hasn't been talked about is, and it's come out, but people hadn't paid a whole lot of attention. So the House settlement plays out like it's anticipated. Come July 1, at the FBS level, you can only have 105 kids on your roster. So you don't have to be, you guys know I get geeky on numbers sometimes, but you don't have to be a math major to say.
You are a CPA. Nothing wrong with that. I like this.
But I would say on the average, the 134 FBS teams there are, I'd say an average probably 125 is what people are carrying right now in terms of players.
Yeah.
So if you say 20 times 134, that's about almost 2,800.
2,680, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. The math in your head, 2,700 roughly. Yeah. Kids playing FBS football right now that come July 1 are not going to be playing FBS football because you're going to have roster limits of 105. So that is going to be quite the change for a lot of people. And, we've talked before about people going in the portal and never finding a home. Yeah. That number is getting ready to escalate through the roof. So that's some of the transition and some of the backside of the House settlement. And you hate it because it's going to reduce the walk-on opportunities for kids at the FBS level. But hey, that's not athletic directors, that's not presidents, that's Judge Wolkin in Northern California making that call as part of the House settlement.
And that fat slob probably never played a down of sports in his life. I'll just say that. Because you're talking, what about the possibility that you have, like in the NFL, you have guys on the reserve list. Like, remember, legendary quarterback Babe Laufenberg played for about 20 years in the NFL, and he said he was laying on the beach drinking a cold beer one time, reading a magazine, and got a call, hey, we need you to play quarterback. That's probably going to happen because you got to have the bodies out there. But you're taking 2,680 people away from the game they love. That's absolute crapola. That decision, it needs to be appealed. And what you've got now is activist judges finding activist student athletes to carry these bullspit cases, and it's not good. Walk-ons, we all know people that walked on in college, in basketball, baseball, football. They're some of the best people you will ever meet, and they make great employees. Why does he think this needs to be done? I mean, Matt, John, have at it. Gary Harris is going to join us in just a minute from Tuscaloosa, but I see no logic. But y'all are both athletic directors and understand all the minutia.
Well, and John, I'm going to go first here, but even
hate it.
even this decision, I hate losing opportunity for young student athletes, because we all know there's stories of walk-ons that over a period of time become impactful. And then also just, some kids dream of playing for someone where that's going to probably be eliminated in some cases across the country. And then you dive deeper down, it's like, we realize, we understand in a roster of whatever your number is, after the two deep, maybe not all positions, but it's hard to get on the field as it is. But I don't understand the why on this one, John. I think I'm having a hard time, because it's not like these kids are being funded at the bottom of your roster with a ton of NIL money. You know what I'm saying? Many times that's never the case, right? So I guess, Rob, you're 100% correct in that thought with the activist judges, but I don't know why you would think this is a good idea. Maybe I'm just reading this wrong, John.
No, I mean, it brings up a lot of questions. The first default for people who are for reducing squad limit sizes, they say, well, hey, look at an active NFL roster. It's 53. You've got guys on injured reserve or the practice squad or stuff like that. But the thing is when you get beyond, let's say there's 10, 12 others on the practice squad. So let's say you got 65.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody in that group goes down, there are, a lot of guys who have been recently cut from NFL teams or taxi squads or whatever, sitting by their phone anticipating that call.
Yeah.
You just can't do that at the collegiate level. So it is going to be an adjustment, and it's going to be interesting to see, how it trickles down. So if, 2,700 kids can't play FBS football anymore, and they still want to play football, what is the trickle down effect, not only to FCS, to Division II, even Matt, to Division III, and are some kids ultimately going to be pushed out of playing college football totally by this? But football is but one example. Now, on the flip side, you can have, it's a squad size of 105, but all 105 could be on scholarship. But the other components here, in baseball. So baseball is going to 34, 35 on the roster. So there are a lot of schools out there right now that have 50 or so in their program. They've got no telling how many pitchers. But again, come July 1, August 1st, those squad limits are going to have to be adhered to. So it's going to be quite a seismic shift here over the next 6-8 months.
What about the return of junior varsity JV football and JV basketball and stuff like that? I remember in college going out on Sunday afternoons and sweating out a hangover watching the JV games. Long before December 2nd, 1989, Alabama's football team played at Jordan-Hare back in the 80s, early 80s, in the 70s, the JV games. I am against anything that makes college sports more like pro sports. Love pro sports. Keep them in their lane. The college experience is the greatest experience, this side of high school. Okay. And I think we've got to stop letting these jackasses, these activists, ruin the college game. And the people that have the money, the fans and the boosters, need to take a stand, like the fugitive poets and the agrarians back in the 1920s, about the South. As we move out of the small towns into the big cities, we could lose our identity. Think about it. Hey, Gary Harris joins us right now. Gary, I was trying to think of a way, growing up watching WGN in Chicago with Harry Carey and Steve Stone in the Cubs games. Harry Carey, I got this one, Gary Harris. Hello, Gary. How you doing, man?
It's
John
been
Hartwell and Matt Dean with us this morning.
Yeah, it's been a while
since
I've been on, and the last time I was hoping to come on. Well, last few weeks we just haven't been able to connect. But the weekend that Vanderbilt beat Alabama in Power 4 conference play was the same weekend that Louisiana Monroe beat James Madison. in the
Yeah.
the other group of 5, and I thought that that was just as big an upset in my mind at that level because of what James Madison had done the last couple of years, and I wanted to congratulate John on that win. Of course, they've just kept on winning now, so it's been an unbelievable season, and what you guys have done. I've been watching it, and it's been quite a roll. So, congratulations.
Appreciate
John.
that, Gary. Yeah, it's been fun. Get to come back to the state of Alabama this weekend, going to Mobile to play the Jags. Hey, you talk about upsets, and I know we were bouncing around and got a lot to talk about. How about Kennesaw State last night?
I saw that.
Shocker, absolute, and that's what we're seeing this year in college football with all the changes that have come. I mean, every Saturday, or in this case, Wednesday night, whenever you play at whatever level, nothing's off limits right now. I mean, who would have ever dreamed that Kennesaw State would get their first FBS win over Liberty? So, I mean, it's unbelievable, and it's just hold on now. Everything that we think we know about college football, with the portal, with NIL, with all the changes that have taken, we're seeing it now on the field. It's a week-to-week endeavor. Since I've talked to you guys, I mean, what a wild ride for Alabama. You beat Georgia, you're number 1 in the country, and since that time now you've lost 2 of 3, and it's another example of you can't look at a result from one Saturday and carry it over to the next anymore. You just can't do it.
Yeah. Matt, you're put on your coaching helmet right now. What Gary just said. I'm watching TV last night. Yeah. Kennesaw State was winless. They've got like 70,000 students, but they were winless, and they beat the Liberty Flames. I mean, you can't watch any game now with a lot of certainty that one or other team is going to win. It's just the world we live in, but it's exciting.
Well, Gary referenced it in a way, I think from a coaching perspective, and John probably agrees with this too, I hope, that every week we preach 1-0. You have to flush out the result, even if it was a great result. You have to flush it out. And I think Coach Saban talks about this all the time. It's just about the focus on what's in the next opportunity in front of you. And if you lose focus, man, things can happen because all week, Gary, I had an opportunity to go up to Purdue, watch Oregon play Purdue. My son's on their staff. So the whole week, everybody there, they don't care they just beat Ohio State. They were so focused on Purdue. They came out those first 3 drives and they got up 21-0, and then they kind of just, settle in from there. But it's true. And I think the great thing about this 12-team playoff is even Bama at 5-2, if they can get things back on the roll, there's no reason they still can't be invited to the playoff. And that's really, as long as you get an invite to this thing, man, you got a chance, because every week, as Gary said, it's a different challenge. There's different matchups, different games. And then if you get to the final 8, it's all at neutral sites, bowl games, right? So the thing that's going to be incredible when we get to that point, I think the first weekend, the 5 versus 12 matches on college sites are going to be fun as heck. The environment there to host a college playoff game. I know they're not getting a bye. I just think it's going to be a tremendous environment.
Gary, at Alabama, you talked about the losses. They're epic. They're few and far between. But Alabama, like you said, they're fortunate they're not on a 3-game skid. The South Carolina game, I took South Carolina to cover in that game, but I damn sure didn't think they'd beat Alabama. What's going on? You know that program, and you and Rodney Orr do a great show Tuesday nights at 6:30, Tider Insider TV. Give us a breakdown, your takeaways up to this point where you're 5-2.
Well, I mean, if you'd have told me Alabama would have a loss, I wouldn't have been shocked. Or 2 losses, I wouldn't, I just wouldn't have thought one of them would have been to Vanderbilt. I mean, I thought one of them would have been to Georgia. But I just think, again, it's just where we're at. Nick Saban steps down, retires. You bring in a new coach, you bring in a new staff. You're having that transition, and I clearly misread it. I mean, I thought Alabama would be honest with you, I thought they'd have a good chance to be at worst 6-1, maybe 7-0. But we see it on the other side with what Indiana's done. We're talking about, what Vanderbilt's been able to do, going into the portal, not just bringing in players, but bringing in coaches. And I think here, you had 26 guys go in the portal. Again, I look at the roster and I said, well,
Gary,
6 highly, and then you have to bring in some other guys to try to take those spots, and they're just not as good. I mean, I don't know. You said they could have had 3 losses in a row. They could be 4-0 in the SEC or 0-4 in the SEC.
Yeah.
I mean, every game that they played, you go back to the first half of the Georgia game and how dominant they looked, and then of course you hung on for dear life in that game. But they could have lost every SEC game that they've played, and they could have won every one of them. So it's just the margin for error for Alabama is like it is for most other teams, and we're just not used to that because under what Nick Saban did, more times than not, there were as you mentioned, Rob, there were the epic losses occasionally, but most of the time, and there were some close games, it was blowout city. I mean, Vanderbilt scored 13 points in 3 games against Alabama under Nick Saban, total in 3 games. It's 4 points a game. And then they win, they score 40. So, it is what it is the best way I can answer that. It's a struggle bus. I think that, now, Missouri it looks like, have some injury issues this weekend. If the running back and the quarterback can't play, that'll change their team. If, obviously if Cook can't go, because we saw what a difference he makes in that team, in the Auburn game. But if he's, if he plays, I have no reason to believe that this won't be a 4th quarter game, and then they're going to be an underdog at LSU. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And then even the Oklahoma game out there and the Auburn game at home, you can't take any game for granted. So as you said, if they were to win out and get to 10-2, I think they'll be in the playoff. But one more loss, and I think they'll be out. And it'll just be interesting to see what happens with this team.
John, I'm going to make you Don Ohlmeyer, executive producer of ABC Sports back in the day. The man smart enough to bring the cameras down from the press box to the field level and look up. Cheerleaders, everybody were on TV. John, what are the TV people thinking about this college football season? The executives.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, again, parity, and that's not happening in every game, but just when you think you've seen it all, there's another game around the corner coming, and I think that's part of what that's the secret sauce of March Madness. I mean, the upsets in March Madness, and it's not if they occur, it's when they occur, and who's it going to be this year? Who's going to get hot? And I think that's something that's going to play out like Matt said in the in the playoffs. Who's to say that number 12 team, and they're going to have to go on the road in a hostile environment, but all of a sudden they get one win, and then all of a sudden Cinderella is coming to the ball. So that's one thing. Hey, one of the things that I wanted to mention too, I was reading a couple of articles early this morning. I'm just going to read you these headlines in this article and would like to throw it out there because we talk. I know Rob loves the term ROI, return on investment. Yeah. I'm reading this article, the headlines. Ole Miss built a $10 million roster to reach the 12-team playoff. With 2 losses, what happens now? I mean, that's right. You got some people asking those questions, and that's not the only institution it's happening at.
Yeah. Gary, I know you got your morning show coming on. What's the temperature right now? I listen to your show. I've got the app on there, and I listen to Ryan Fowler. I listen to y'all and Tider Insider. And you've been there before, but you're replacing the GOAT. I mean, that's where you start, isn't it?
Well, there's a lot of uncertainty right now, no doubt about it. And I mean, I still think Kellen DeBoer is a good football coach, but we're seeing it play out in that. I don't think that regardless of, I do think Alabama's unique, even within the Southeastern Conference. I mean, I just think, everybody's passionate about their programs, but here it's such an ingrained part of the people that, it impacts people's self-esteem. It impacts how they feel about themselves and their job and their families and everything else. And I'm kind of re-situating here to the point that you don't know what it's like until you experience it. And you're not given the normal opportunity really to be a coach and just kind of fill things out. And now he's in the crosshairs. I mean, there's no way about it, because when you look at their team, could have lost a couple more, could have won a couple more. But I think that the 2 games that they lost, and I think this is fair to say that they didn't lose because of a lack of talent. I think that there were decisions either made by players or by coaches that impacted the outcome of those games. And
Yeah.
if the players made poor decisions, that reflects on the coaching staff. And if the coaching staff made poor decisions, then obviously that directly impacts them. Now, again, you play enough close games, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But I think the feeling among the fans is that with better coaching, either in terms of preparation or in game, that Alabama would be undefeated. Now, whether or not that's fair, I don't know. But that is the perception. And then, as you guys have alluded to, you've got Nick Saban still living here, working here, and has done a great job, I think, of supporting Coach DeBoer. But still, you've got people saying, well, if Nick Saban were the coach, they'd be 7-0.
Yeah.
And based on Nick Saban's track record,
how can you argue?
People would say that this is the first time since his first year, and we know what he took over in 2007, that Alabama's had 2 losses before November. So the temperature is very, very warm, and there's just not a lot of patience here. And the expectations now we're seeing really are a little bit out of whack. But, somebody has to follow Saban, and it's just not going to be easy. And if Coach DeBoer, fairly or unfairly, loses a couple of more, and this turns out to be an 8-4 team playing in, a mid-level bowl game, then you know what the pressure is going to look like going into next season. There's just no way around it. So they win the rest of them, get in the playoff. As you guys have laid out, it's a different world now. You get in the playoff, and everything's kind of okay. That's the goal. And if it goes to 16, it'll even be more so. But if Alabama doesn't make that playoff, it's going to be a long off season. I can tell you that.
Yeah. And Gary, I know you got to get ready for your show. You just said it best. Nick Saban's got an office there in the stadium, but he's been wonderful on ESPN Game Day. It's been fun to watch that. But I think Matt and John would agree, when you've got an alpha, a GOAT, that's the standard for the rest of college football. Hell, I don't know who it is now who's got the wisdom and the insight that he still has. I mean, he's not an old guy, but it's a different world we live in. Gary, I know you got to go, but tell us people how they can follow you, but also what's your gut feeling on, you mentioned Alabama's schedule. I mean, you've got Missouri at LSU. They'll be an underdog. You've got Mercer, and then at Oklahoma and Auburn.
First, Rob, I want to say today is Kalen DeBoer's 50th birthday. So
okay, happy birthday!
His birthday is a week earlier than Nick Saban. So I imagine he's trying to celebrate his birthday a little bit with a lot of preparation. Based on what I've seen, I can't see this team running the table. I mean, I think right now, with the way that LSU has improved and the flaws that Alabama has, the flaws that have been exposed, that I would expect Alabama to lose there. But we know Alabama's history at LSU has been really, really good. They've won more than they've lost. So nothing would surprise me with this team. It wouldn't shock me if they went 10-2. But as I said, from what I've seen, I think every one of these SEC games is going to be competitive. And if you're in games that go into the fourth quarter, they're going to come down to a few plays, and if you don't make those plays, you're going to have a chance to lose. So I don't see Alabama finishing this thing out 10-2. I just don't. Whether it's an upset loss this weekend or a loss in Baton Rouge or a loss, upset loss at Oklahoma, because by then, as bad as Oklahoma looks right now, they could have their receivers back. They could found something offensively. And then I know recently the Iron Bowl in Tuscaloosa, these games have not been really close, but and I don't know where Auburn's going to be at that point. When you haven't won a conference game, but there's no reason to believe that based on how Auburn's lost, that they can't be competitive in that game, because Auburn's another really interesting case study here to be 0-4 in the league, and you could argue that they certainly could be 3-1 in the league. So I think for Alabama, I just don't see them finishing it out and running the table. So I don't think they're going to be in the playoff. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, Gary, Twitter handle.
You at Gary Harris _WVUA, my Gary Harris WVUA 23 Facebook page, and Tide100.9.com and WVUA23.com. Thanks, guys.
You bet. See you next week.
Thanks, Gary.
Bring in Jacques Doucet right now, WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge. And Landers Ford wanted to say something about one of our sponsors, LandersFordMemphis.com, located out at Houston Levy and Poplar. They will deliver cars, trucks, and SUVs. They're open Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Service department, it's a big one, is open 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. The number one Ford dealership in the Mid-South, LandersFordMemphis.com. They can deliver anywhere. You go out there. It's an easy process. Ask for Brad Bellamy, our friend, the general manager. I told him he'll be the quarterback, and he will hook you up with the right salesman to make the experience really, really pleasant. MJ went out there, got a new Bronco the other night. He said, man, that was the easiest car deal I've ever done. Hey, if you didn't buy your last vehicle from Landers, you probably paid too much, and they are serious about that. Proud to have them as a sponsor. Jacques, college football season, nothing crazy going on, just the typical every day. Fans are just cool and patient. I'm okay with, just the kind of slow process. Yeah, BS. I could come as Halloween as someone like that. You cover LSU. You go everywhere. I've got John Hartwell, AD at ULM, Matt Dean, Associate AD at Rose College in Memphis. He's got a son on the staff at Oregon. We're all over the place. Make some sense out of this. And LSU, Bo Davis is back. Kevin Peoples is there. Talk about the defense. They're coming along. Let's talk Tigers.
Yeah. Well, to your last guess real quick, we used to always talk about on road trips, whether we're leaving games, going to games, we always say, who would be dumb enough to follow up Nick Saban at Alabama or confident enough to follow up Nick Saban about who the hell is going to take that job, and that invincibility all these years and that intimidation factor and all that. I mean, even the games they would lose under Saban were so memorable, like a kick six or a final play of the game type deal. Even when they lost it, the other team had to just go over their head to do it. So it's an interesting dynamic. I for one, will never be overlooking Alabama when they come to Tiger Stadium for sure. Somebody joked, I hope LSU doesn't overlook Alabama to the Vanderbilt game later in the season there. But to your point, LSU defensive line going into the season was thought to be perhaps a disaster because of who they missed on in the transfer portal, and they just didn't have a lot of guys with experience coming back. And the guy that they were counting on the most, Jacoby and Guillory, had an Achilles injury and went out for the year. And so, coaching, it makes a big difference. And LSU stocked their staff with Blake Baker as the defensive coordinator, Bo Davis on that defensive line. Corey Raymond comes back to coach the secondary. Kevin Peoples might have had the biggest impact so far because LSU's two edge rushers have 14 sacks combined, Braden Swinson and Savion Jones. So when I look at this team, I've had the fortune of covering, 3 national championship teams and another that made the national championship game in 2011 that lost to Alabama. But, this team, they're talented, but they are not, bursting with talent. And I think that this has been Brian Kelly and his staff's best coaching job in his 3 years here to get this team to 6-1.
Yeah. John, I know you got to hop off here in a second, but great insight from a man who looks like he has not 2 participation trophies over his left shoulder, but 2 Emmys as Louisiana Sportscaster of the Year. Jacques, that is damn impressive. They're hard to get.
Well, I'm kind of like Luke Longley tagging along with Michael Jordan. My photographer and editor, Darren DeQuano, does an amazing job of shooting stuff, editing stuff, and not to pat ourselves on the back, but the Cecil versus the Diesel documentary got nominated for an Emmy, and so we'll find out if it wins in December. But these are like Suncoast regional stuff. This ain't like Seinfeld or anything, but they look the same, and I'll pass them off the same if you won't catch me on it.
Yeah, I'm impressed, John.
Yeah, Jock. Hey, good to be on with you today, and congratulations to the success for the Tigers. I saw an article the other day talking about the combined records of LSU, ULM, Lafayette, and Tulane, and our friends down the road in Ruston as the 5th FBS program in the state are starting. They got a win the other night, so hopefully we can keep our end going from the north end of the state this weekend as we go to South Alabama. But Rob,
well, congratulations on your success. I know that win over James Madison in particular was huge, and nothing flukish going on up there. You guys are playing great football and winning games.
Yeah, Coach Vincent's doing a great job for us. But yeah, as always, guys, great to be on with y'all. And John_Hartwell on X. Follow anything and everything ULM Warhawks at ulmwarhawks.com, and try to keep it, as Coach Vincent says, keep the 134 mentality. Everybody says we're the worst team in college football. Let's take it one day at a time, 134 mentality, and go get a W in Mobile this weekend. And Rob, just to follow up on your little intro point there, we do have a group going to the Bluegill tomorrow night on the Causeway for dinner. So
Will Johnson will not eat seafood that's ever not from Mobile because he's grown down on the Gulf Coast. All right, John, y'all have a great time. I'll be watching that game Saturday.
Thanks.
You bet. Matt, jump in here with Jacques Doucet, and what a fun job you've got. And you just mentioned that staff: Kevin Peoples, Bo Davis, Blake. They spent about $16 million on it, and they're getting their money's worth. Matt, you know what it takes to build a staff. Corey Raymond comes back, and the magic returns with the defensive backs as well.
I'm really it's good to be on with you, Jack. I'm really curious this week your thoughts, because I think the biggest game in college football is LSU A&M this weekend. Obviously, it has a lot of possible playoff implications, has SEC playoff game implications. Break down the matchup in your mind, because it looks like A&M is getting better every week, but I could say the same thing about LSU.
Yeah, Matt, these are the last two undefeated teams in the SEC when it comes to the league. And granted, I think neither team has played Georgia, Texas, even Alabama or Tennessee, but they are the last two undefeated teams. Kyle Fields is a madhouse. People kind of crack on them about being a little weird and this and that, but 2 years ago, I went over there and they were 4-7. They're going nowhere fast. It's the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and they packed that place and they punched LSU in the mouth. LSU was on the way to the SEC championship game. Devin Achane, the running back, ran for over 300 yards against LSU. So I expect I think they're going to have 108,000 people there. Oh, yeah. And so it's a rough atmosphere to go into. Brian Kelly said as much. He said, look, no offense to Arkansas, no offense to South Carolina. Those are tough places to play, but this is upper echelon stuff. And so LSU had a lot of pre-snap penalties last week at Arkansas. So I hope they got that straight going into this game. But, LSU, just after they lost that first game to USC, a USC team that has proven that they're not very good. They've lost 3 games. But has somehow kind of gotten better as the season has gone on, got kind of fortunate at South Carolina, won an overtime game against Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin's probably still kicking himself for the missed opportunities and them losing that game. Texas A&M, I watched that game they played against Missouri when they were at home, and they really beat down Missouri that day. Last week, I guess they weren't. It was kind of hard to get fired up in Starkville at 11 in the morning or whatnot, but this is kind of the game that A&M over the years has not been able to win to kind of break through to go to the next level. Yeah. But LSU hasn't won over at Texas A&M since 2016. They've lost their last 3 trips going over there. So I think LSU just needs to manufacture a little bit of a running game. If they can get 100, 125 yards rushing, keep them honest. And Nussmeier, it's gonna fall on Garrett Nussmeier again, because he doesn't, obviously nobody runs like Jaden Daniels, but Nussmeier's not a runner. Everything's from the pocket for the most part with him. And the LSU defense, as we talked about, they only gave up 38 yards rushing last week against Arkansas. And so they've gotten a lot better. And, A&M's a 2.5-point favorite, a close game expected.
What did LSU rush for at Arkansas the other night?
Well, Durham, the freshman, had 101 himself. So I think it was around maybe 130, 140. Like that.
I had said the team that runs for north of 160 yards wins, but it makes sense when the other team is held to 38 yards, because you still got to be able to run the ball. But talk about Garrett Nussmeier. He made a statement at the beginning of the season how much he loves the state of Louisiana. he's reflective of that strong German culture in South Louisiana. But I mean, he's like having a coach on the field, isn't he?
Yeah, well, look, St. Patty's Day down here. All these Cajuns are out getting drunk,
Frank Duffy
celebrating
comes on the show drinking with his friends, walking through the quarter on St. Patrick's Day, the parade they have. So, hey, you can't beat it.
We celebrate everything down here.
Right.
Yeah, Nussmeier, he's been on the team a long time. I mean, he's been on the team since 2021. Ed Ogeron's last year, and that was when LSU had Max Johnson. And they let Nussmeier play a little bit that year. And, he was always a guy that would come in and make the amazing play. And then sometimes he'd cancel it out with a boneheaded turnover. But this year, he's thrown some interceptions. I mean, Jaden Daniels only threw 4, I think, all of last year, amazingly. Now, Nussmeier was never going to do that. But, he's just got great arm strength. He makes great throws, and he's a coach's son, Doug. I mean, I remember Doug Nussmeier when he was on the New Orleans Saints, and he's been a coach for a long time. He's been on Alabama's staff. I remember Nick Saban coming up to Nussmeier, I think, before the 21 game and kind of patting him on the head and stuff because he knew him growing up. So, I think he's done a great job. This wide receiving core is good. It's not amazing, I don't think. There's no Malik Neighbors in there, but, Mason Taylor at tight end, Jason's son, his genes are pretty good. He's going to be a pro for sure. So,
Matt, what he just said about Nick Saban coming up and talking to Garrett, he knew him when he was a kid. I think that gets lost in all the talk, which can get pretty heated among fan bases and all, that it's all still about relationships. Matt, you've been a coach, 32 years of your life, men's and women's basketball. I think that's the takeaway. My favorite thing you said on the show today, it kind of humanizes what we sometimes forget is real life. I love that.
Well, I look back to the early parts of the season. We go back to the USC game, and obviously people felt like after week 1, the sky is falling. But like from a coach's mentality, I've always thought Brian Kelly is underrated in terms of development. And I just look at this team with his staff, and Jock, you hit it on the head. I mean, obviously you're there with him all the time, but I think for this game, Texas A&M with Moss is going to try to run the football, right? And whoever wins the line of scrimmage, and Connor Wegman, my son helped recruit him to A&M when he was on that staff for 4 years, is a very talented quarterback. The fact they have him back there is huge. But I also believe this is the toughest test for A&M since they played Notre Dame in Kyle Field in a loss. So I think the number is around 24. If somebody exceeds that number, I think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game. I like the quarterback matchup. I like the way Nussmeier's been playing, and I agree. All those receivers are in the NFL right now from last year, but I still think LSU. Their body of work is slightly better. I know they're a slight dog, but I'm going to take Brian Kelly in this game. I really am. And I could be completely wrong because one of the best performances A&M had, we thought Missouri was pretty good. They decimated Missouri in Kyle Field. I know it was a day game, but I think in these environments, I was at the 7 overtime game. I was at the A&M LSU game where I think it was like a rain fest, and the Aggies won, a really sloppily played game. But I just think this is a game that LSU's prepared for because they know the stakes. I mean, I like them. I do.
2 local ties real quick. I think you mentioned Le'Veon Moss. He's from Baton Rouge. He played at Estruma. Yeah, played at Estruma High School. I think he had some personal stuff going on that he needed to get out of Baton Rouge and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then Tommy Moffitt, LSU strength and conditioning coach for Nick Saban's first hire, I think, or one of his first hires, and was through all those national championships and on that great run. Brian Kelly comes in, doesn't retain him. I interviewed Moffitt yesterday. He doesn't mince words. I was fired. So he's on the Texas A&M sideline now as their strength and conditioning coach. He says he doesn't think it's going to feel any different. I don't know about that, but so that's another storyline in the game.
Well, let me ask you about Dylan Sampson. I know this is a guy, he plays for Tennessee. Did he play at Redemptorist or Catholic?
I think he was at Dutchtown High School. Dutchtown, okay. Yeah. Relatively new school that opened.
You saw him in high school. He may be the best. running back in the SEC. I think he's got 17 touchdowns right now.
Yeah, I need to talk to my recruiting friends and get my memory refreshed on what happened there as well. But yeah, he's been explosive over at with the Tennessee Vols.
I mean, Baton Rouge High School. You cover Napoleonville, Denham Springs. You cover all that area. It's per capita. I mean, Baton Rouge, Mobile, and Detroit, I think, put out probably more guys in the NFL than any three cities in America. And you get to cover all that. How much fun is your job?
Well, I was talking to a class the other day at Southern University, and I said, that's where we establish a lot of these relationships. Marcus Spears is on ESPN now and a big talking personality. He was at Southern Lab right down the street playing football and basketball. When the Saints won the Super Bowl, a guy named Tracy Porter intercepted the ball from Peyton Manning, had a pick six. Where did he go to high school? Port Allen, right across the river. And so it just goes on and on in terms of guys that you cover and breaking through to the league. So I say, our high school football, sometimes I think when LSU played their season opener against Wisconsin and Green Bay, I think we were watching like the local high school football show, and I'm like, man, these guys are small and slow. For what we're used to watching, and so other states just don't compare with Louisiana. Obviously, Texas, which is just a huge state, Florida, so forth. Well,
you probably even covered Brandon Jacobs out of Napoleonville, who went to Auburn, finished Southern Illinois, won a few Super Bowls, a 6'4", 270-pound running back out of Napoleonville, Louisiana. Just awesome stuff. Jump back in here, Matt. A few more minutes with Jacques Doucet, WAFB Channel 9, two-time Louisiana Sportscaster of the Year. You need to follow him, and also do yourself a favor. Watch his documentary about Cecil the Diesel, Cecil Collins. Less than 4 games, but he was trending toward being one of the greatest running backs maybe ever in college football.
Well, I will say this. You had mentioned, Jack, these two teams are both undefeated in SEC play. As we look at the future, I think even if LSU were not to win this game, as long as they can beat Alabama at home, I like their schedule the rest of the year. I mean, that's obviously a tough game, but it's at home. So I think the winner of this game, in my opinion, is going to be one of the final two teams that are playing in the SEC championship game. And some of it's schedule-induced, I think more so on the A&M side. But then A&M still has to end the year with Texas. So whoever can come out here with a win, I think's in a really, really good position to be in the final game.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying it for a while. Every game on LSU's schedule is winnable, and every game is losable. Yes. They have to play a certain way. I see you've got a Florida fan in here. Look, I ain't chalking that game up either.
No, you're right.
Go to the Swamp and have to win. I mean, LSU has won a lot at the Swamp, but it's never easy. I think it's been since 2002 since LSU went in there and had a decisive win. It's always a root canal going to Gainesville. So Vanderbilt's much better. And hey, if you come in off of Thanksgiving all fat and happy and think, oh, Oklahoma sucks, we're going to roll, then you lose that one. So it's just, you just got to be on your toes every week.
Yeah.
Well, and I agree with you, though, and that this is the best job that Brian Kelly's done. It's just year 3. He's won over 300 games in his coaching career, correct?
He's the winningest active coach in terms of wins. Now, obviously, he hasn't won a national championship at this level, but, everywhere he's been, he's won at a 75, 80% clip pretty much.
Ralph Miller, Oregon State basketball coach, I think he was there for 70 years. He won, he's the winningest coach in Pac-12 history, but he never won a national championship. Had some damn good teams, but Brian Kelly is at LSU. And when are we? Have you? Matt told me there's rumors that there's a Lester Miles Academic Achievement Award that's going to be. And Les Miles won a national championship. Coach Ed Orgeron for Bayou Lafourche won a national championship. LSU gets everybody in that state that they want. It is. I'm going to take LSU Saturday to win at Texas A&M. Because I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to have the best game of his career. I see it. That guy made a statement to the people of Louisiana early in the season how much he loves it and loves the people down there. I think they get that win. This is going to be a big time. I mean, that is a shot over the bow. Matt, what's your score? And before we go back, I'm going to get his score. Yeah.
I just think Elko defensively is really good. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I see it as 24-20, 24-21. And right now I'm probably, Rob, I said earlier, I'm going to go with Nussmeier as the edge for those 3 points just because I think quarterbacks matter a ton, as we know. And I would not be shocked if A&M won, obviously, because it's a huge task to win at that crazy atmosphere. I mean, there's a ton of people there. It's loud. There's going to be some false starts. We know that's going to happen. But I'm going to go a low-scoring game, 24-21.
Okay.
I agree that's going to be a low-scoring game. It just feels like points are going to be at a premium. So I'll go LSU 23-20.
I got LSU 26-22. Nussmeier throws for 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. But I mean, Jacques, are you going to that game?
Yeah, we're leaving this afternoon. We're going to drive over there, going to do some live coverage on Friday and then cover the game Saturday.
So as an atmosphere, how does it compare? I have not been to a game at College Station. How does it compare to the Swamp, to Auburn, and then ultimately to Baton Rouge?
Well, it's the only place where, you look up and the people are swaying back and forth when they sing that song. And that kind of, I don't want to say it freaks you out, but it's different. And then they got, nobody does all this, all that stuff that the male shout leaders do and everything.
Yeah.
They have a cannon. They fire that cannon, and that takes you by surprise. Tommy Moffitt told me that he's still not used to that cannon. He still jumps when they fire the cannon. And it's just a huge place. They got the dog, the Lassie, is named Reveille. I think I think it's second in command. They say the dog is second in command at the school. And so, but look, I mean, people goof on him and stuff, but there's a lot. It's a huge school. I think they had 70,000 students or something. I mean, there's a lot of people that are going into the military and doing stuff for our country. So there are a lot of great people there. And, we always grew up on the Aggie jokes. And my mom would say, Jacques, that doesn't really make sense because Aggies are actually smart. It's kind of hard to go to school there, So anyway.
Over 20,000 students in the College of Engineering at Texas A&M. 20,000. I mean, most SEC schools have, 5,000, 6,000, and that's a big deal. But I've never met an Aggie fan that I didn't like.
Yeah.
But can you do one story? And next week, if you'll come on with us, I would like you to ask those yell leaders to explain all the cheer. I mean, it's I don't understand it. I think it would be a cool story. What are they doing? What kind of signals are they sending out? Because they used to have the bonfires and all like that. But their fans, you're right. It's insane as an atmosphere, and everybody that goes there says they're the nicest fans in all of college football. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, I don't see them doing neck or anything like that in the crowd at College Station. Because
I think Matt has something he wants to say.
Well, no, one of the huge traditions, because my son worked there for 4 years, I've been to a Friday night, they call it yell practice, right? Yeah. There is 30 to 40,000 people there Friday night practicing the yells in preparation for the next game. Yeah. I mean, it's insanity. And then from a recruiting standpoint, it's a great experience for recruits. When they are playing well, it's a really tough venue to play, and it's going to be a fun game to watch on Saturday night for sure.
It will. I mean, and look, Jacques, unbelievable stuff as always. And that's the thing. You are so lucky to get to go to all these college towns, and you know them. I don't know if you have time to write a book, but I hope you win the Emmy in that documentary on Cecil Collins. We need more local guys doing this, and you are one of the best. 24 years now at WAFB Channel 9.
2001, so I think I just made 23. So it'd be 24 in March.
Okay, gotcha. Hey, let people know how they can follow you, and we'll wrap up. And appreciate you as always, and Matt for being on here with us.
Hey, by the way, I just got my camera working, and I want to say something about the fish school.
At
Texas A&M, because I had a girlfriend many years ago that went to A&M, and I went to Rebel. Was it Rebel Yell, Matt? Is that it?
No, it's Yell Practice.
Well,
yeah, midnight yell. Midnight yell.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what's called. Correct.
Yeah, midnight yell. Yeah, I did midnight yell and I did one bonfire. And there's a lot of really cool things because if you like tradition, that's really cool stuff. But it is like what I understand that if you're an incoming freshman, you come in a week early just to go to fish school. I think they call it fish school or something like that.
That's the core of cadets.
Is it though? I
Yeah.
thought it was like freshmen had so the fans could learn the calls and all that stuff. Yeah, like there's a whole thing with it. It's not just a couple of like signals. There's a lot. Is that right, Matt?
It's a little cultish for sure. I'm not sure the specifics, Brandon, but I can find out by next week for you. That answer.
Would you find that out for me and report back here to the show, sir? Thank you.
Yeah, I think we'd all like to know. And Jock, one last thing. Let people know how they can follow you. And also, a lot of people on this watch this show travel. If they're going to Baton Rouge, what's a couple of restaurants off the radar that serve great food, authentic Louisiana food? Because that's my favorite food in the world.
Well, the Chimes isn't off the radar, but that's a great place to go to at the North Gates of LSU.
Do you know Giacomo's?
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 I don't think that's in Baton Rouge, right?
No. I thought you guys were talking about. No.
Yeah, Lafayette is an hour down the road too. I mean,
Okay.
That's the heart of Cajun country.
Yeah.
Baton Rouge, I love it. It's great, but it ain't Cajun. Not. It's more like Houston. Great place to be and all that. They got some great seafood here and everything. But they don't talk like this. You got to go to Lafayette and get some boudin and crackling.
Yeah.
So anyway, follow me. My name right here. I Jock Ducey on Twitter. WAFB is our .com is our website, and I appreciate you having me on today, and look forward to chatting with you next week and in the future.
All right. Thanks so much, man. Have a safe trip out there. Matt, thank you so much. Executive producer Brendan Martin, thank you so much. We pulled it off today. Let me say something real quick again.
Oh, wait, I have to say something, Rob. Hold on, because this is important. I forgot to tell you. But this is just, I forgot to tell you this, but we're supporting, by the way, my friend Lisa, who's running to support help for breast cancer research. There's something called Fab 40 over 40. You go on there. There's a little QR code here. It takes her right to her thing. It's a free vote. You vote for her. One of the reasons I really like that what she's doing is that she's actually there's prize money involved, right? But she's donating her prize money if she were to win back to the victims of the hurricanes of Florida. So it's a twofer. So you vote for her and then you can donate. All monies goes to breast cancer research. October, by the way, is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So, we're going to do, Rob and I, we've talked about this many times. We're going to do more stuff like this in the future. So help us support these causes. We have no reason to support it. There's no benefit for us other than just to do the right thing. And we're going to do more of this stuff. So go click the code and support Lisa. She's a good friend. She's a Florida girl, all that good stuff. So do that.
Hey,
do
look,
that favor.
I'm glad you did.
Today's the cutoff today, but you got to do it by midnight. So if you want to support us, do us a favor.
Yeah, and absolutely, because this show, we are here to serve our audience. That's what we're here for. We believe in it. I've got the best executive producer in the world. You wouldn't believe what goes on behind the scenes to make a show work.
One day, maybe in the summer, we'll do a tour of the monster computer that I had to melt together this morning. But we're going to get it all worked out because the show's growing. We're getting more popular and we're going to be rich. So,
well, let me tell you what the reason why we have a great producer. You got to have
great
a
host.
team effort. And every time you come on these shows, you've got to
He's always like this every day, by the way. Rob is always happy. No, we joke about your personality. We joke about your personality a lot, but we don't talk about how kind you are, how great, how you really care about your family and your friends. You're very, very gracious and really appreciate it. You've been the best guy I've ever worked with in this industry, and I've worked with a few of them. You're a professional and you're a gentleman, and I really appreciate all your support. And my family and I always appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to work with you. So,
hey, I feel the same way. And look, guys, get ready for tomorrow because we live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Go out and find ways to help other people every day and check out Unrivaled about Sewannee's 1899 team. It'll get you fired up about college football. All of our sponsors, sidelines.live. Again, see you tomorrow morning. Brendan, let's kick some ass and make it happen and spread the word about this show. We're out of here. See you in the morning.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.